Knowledge is power to those who may seek, wisdom and glory and a path to the peak. In the knowledge of history you can learn and see who you are and who you could be. Though I have passed, my stories won't die, for you to gain wisdom, so who am I? I belong to the tribe of Banu Umayyah. My great-grandfather from my father's side is the famous companion and caliph Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiyallahu anh. And my great-grandfather from my mother's side is the famous companion and caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anh. I was born in Medina, and my uncle Abdul Malik ibn Marwan was caliph in Damascus. I had a scar on my face that I was inflicted with as a child when a sheep struck me. As my father nursed the wound, he said, "If you are the scarred one from Banu Umayyah, then you are fortunate." He was referring to what my great-grandfather, Umar ibn al-Khattab, once said decades earlier, "I hope there will be a man from my descendants who has a scar on his face. He will fill the world with justice as it is filled with oppression." When I was young, I used to live in Medina, where I got to learn from the scholars there the Holy Quran, Hadith, literature, jurisprudence, and I gained wisdom. My role model was my great uncle, Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, who was my mom's paternal uncle. I had memorized the Quran at a young age and become fond of knowledge and the scholars. And in the later years, when my father passed away, my uncle, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, who held me at high regards, requested me to move to Damascus, where he married me to his daughter, Fatima. I was given governorship of Medina, where I was able to revive its community after it was oppressed by the previous governor. I ruled with justice, and I showed its people kindness, especially those who are from the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I was known to have a prideful walk. My cologne scent can be picked up miles away, and I always made sure I looked my best. All of this was before I became caliph. I never thought I would become a caliph, nor did I ever want it to be so, but Allah had different plans for me. In the later years, when my cousin Sulaiman ibn Abd al-Malik was caliph, he was on his deathbed when he wanted to appoint his successor, but his eldest living son was too young to succeed him. I had doubts that I would be considered for this role, so I made sure I inform his advisor that I am not to be elected. But Sulaiman had wrote in his will that I would be his successor, and his brother, my uncle, Yazid ibn Abd al-Malik, would be my successor afterwards. As soon as I was done burying my cousin Sulaiman, and while I was still in the graveyard, I immediately wrote orders to relieve those in power who were known to be unjust from their duties. People around me thought I was so eager for ruling that I couldn't wait to practice authority back at the capital. But in fact, I realized I did not want to be accountable for a single moment of injustice committed under my rule. Then when I got up to head back to the city, I was presented with the Grand Caliphate Caravan, comprised of numerous animals, wagons, and security forces. When asking what this was, they said, "This is the caravan of the Caliphate, to be used by the Caliph in transit." I said, "This will not be necessary. Bring me my mule, for it is sufficient for me." And I asked that the entire caravan would be put back into the Commonwealth treasury. Then as soon as I got to the palace, I noticed they have furnished it with brand new furniture that is used at the dawn of a new caliph. I asked for that too to be removed and added to the Commonwealth treasury. I spent the rest of my night taking all that were signs of lavish lifestyles from my kin and myself and adding it to the Commonwealth. On that night, everyone understood that the coming days will be nothing like before. I became very pious and humble as I rejected all types of luxury, unlike my years as a governor. I even forbade people from standing in my honor, for this is a gesture only meant for Allah during prayer, and I'm merely a servant to the people. I also re-implemented what was forgotten from the Sunnah, and I established a ruling system that was based on the teachings of the Quran. I had many accomplishments during my reign. I re-established the basis of Shura for ruling. I stopped the conquering of new lands and focused more on the conquering of people's hearts to strengthen their beliefs. And I also spread knowledge and ordered the documentation of the Hadith. I was well known for my piety. One day, I showed up to Jum'ah prayer a bit late, and when I was reproached, I said, I washed my only shirt and I was waiting for it to dry. One day, I was sick in bed. A friend of mine came to visit me. When he saw me in a very dirty shirt, he asked my wife Fatima, "Do you not wash his clothes?" She replied, "By Allah, this is the only shirt he has, and if we were to wash it, he will have nothing else to wear." Another story of my piety. I had a servant who had been bringing me warm water for wudu. One day, I asked him, "Where do you heat this water from?" The servant replied, "From the Commonwealth kitchen." I said surprisingly, "May Allah guide you, for you have wronged us." I then began estimating how much wood was burnt for heating up a pot of water for wudu, and then I counted the number of days I've been using heated water. I calculated how much wood was used in total, then I paid its equivalents back into the Commonwealth treasury. Also, on one cold morning, I asked for warm water to shower. When it arrived, I asked the servant where it was heated from. He replied, "From the Commonwealth kitchen." I refused to use that water for showering and was tempted to use regular cold water until I made sure that I had enough money to pay back the amount that was used for heating the water. The people of my tribe, Banu Umayyah, were not happy with the way I've treated them. I made them equal to everyone else and removed any favors they've had before my time and returned it to the Commonwealth treasury. My policies have stripped them away from the lavish lifestyle they once had, and for that they've always despised my order and wished for my elimination. So they promised a servant 1,000 dinars and to gain him his freedom if he would to poison my drink. When he had done so, and I fell ill from it, I sensed this was an act of treason. So I called that servant and asked him, "What were you promised for this?" He said, 1,000 dinars and my freedom. I called for my guards and said, "Take away his 1,000 dinars and add it to the Commonwealth." And then I ordered the slave to be outcasted. Then, after 20 days of sickness, I passed away at the age of 39. My reign lasted around 2 years and 5 months. Who am I?